Dear students, I am Prem Kumar K, Assistant Professor of English, Government First Grade College, Chikbalapur. I am going to teach for the course BA. Subject is English for the semester 4th. In this session, I am going to teach the language component, that is interview skills. In the last session, we had discussed about the preparation for interview, rehearse for certain questions, preparation for women, and interview preparation for men. In this session, let us discuss how to face interview, do's of interview, don'ts of interview, and after the interview. So, how to face interview? Here, the candidate must practice good non-verbal communication. Means he has to rehearsal his gestures. Non-verbal communication is nothing but it is a language of signs. Means he has to rehearsal his eye contact. He has to use his hands. How he has to use his body language. So this is what we call non-verbal communication. Means along with verbal communication, non-verbal communication is also very much important in order to convey the information for the interviewer. For that purpose, what the candidate must do means he has to practice good body language. So if he prepares the good body language means he can get the good job, otherwise he can't. And the candidate must dress for the job very neatly. His dress must be elegant and his dress must be very neat according to the company. And he has to wear formal dress. And the candidate must listen what the employer says carefully. And if he doesn't listen means the interviewer must think that the candidate is ineligible for the interview. So that is why the candidate must listen carefully what the interviewer speaks. If he listens carefully, automatically he will answer the questions correctly. Otherwise he cannot answer the questions. Next is the candidate must use appropriate language. So the candidate has to use the appropriate language according to the company or according to NGO or government organizations. So he has to use suitable language. He has to use appropriate language. And the candidate has to take care to answer the questions. Means here the candidate must be very careful in order to answer the questions. What the interviewer asks, according to that questions the candidate must answer, and it should be suited, means it should be apt. So that is why facing interview is very much important for the candidate in order to get the job. Next, let us see what are the do's of the interview. So in the do's of interview, first of all, the candidate must do his homework. He has to make a good first impression. Means he has to greet the interviewer, he has to greet the employer with his first appearance. That means first appearance is the best appearance. So that is why the candidate must greet and must make good first impression on interviewer. And He has to listen patiently and carefully, and he has to respond accordingly. Means what the board members of the interview will ask, according to that he has to respond. According to that the candidate has to respond. According to that the candidate has to answer. And the candidate must prepare smartly. Means he has to ask open ended questions to the interviewer. If he gets any doubts regarding the company or regarding the NGO or regarding the government organization, means the candidate must ask the questions openly, means the open ended questions. And the candidate must sell his strengths and he has to expertise, means whatever the strengths he has he must boldly put on before the interviewer, before the employer, then only he will be able to get the job. So these are very important to get the job. So next, the don'ts of the interview. Among the don'ts of the interview are, first point is the candidate should not speak poorly about his present or former employers. Means he should not leak any information or he should not speak anything any bad about his former employers or present employers. So that is what is the first don't of the interview. And next, he should not falsify information. Means he should not give wrong information for the company. Whatever the information may be, he should put it very frankly and sincerely, and he should be very bold and frank at the interview table. So that is why he should not falsify the information at any cost. He should tell the truths. He should give the correct information according to resume or according to what he has mentioned in the resume. So that is what here the meaning of don't falsify information. And the next point is don't speak over the interviewer. Means here the interviewer asks the question. While asking the question, if the candidate speaks, means that should be very awkward and that should be irritating for the interviewer. So the interviewee, means the candidate, should not speak at the time what the interviewer speaks. So after the question of the interviewer, he has to beg the excuse and he has to start his question or he has to ask his doubts. Until the interviewer speaks, until the interviewer stops the conversation, he should not speak anything. And he should not meet the people in the office inquiring about the result. Means the candidate should not meet any people in the office and he should not ask anything about the result or anything about his appearance or anything about the test or anything about the interview. That's why he must be very careful in asking or eliciting the information about the result. And the candidate should not be discouraged the other members with his experience. He should not discourage others who are waiting for the interview. So this is a very common sense for the candidate. He should not speak anything to the waiting candidate who supposed to attend the interview. So this is also what we call the etiquettes of interview. So these are the don'ts of interview. Is what the candidate has to do after the interview. So here many job seekers do not give importance to the simple things to follow after the interview, but they are very 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 important, because here some mistakes they will do. What the job seekers will do after the interview means, they move the chair aside with a bang and leave the place abruptly without a friendly gesture or greeting. So this is a common mistake made by the job seekers after the interview. They should not do this. They should put the chair aside softly without sound, and they should leave with smile and greeting. This is what they have to do. And soon after a member in the board says that you can leave, ensure these following things. What are those things means? Greet the officer or shake hands with a spirit of confidence. This shows optimism of the candidate to the interviewer or the employer, and the candidate must keep the chair in its original place without a sound. Okay, this is also very important point, I already mentioned it. And the candidate must close the door very softly while leaving the room. So this is also what the job seeker must do after the interview. So these are the things what the job seeker has to keep in mind after the interview. So thank you.